Hello, everybody. Ron Callis here with another episode of Automation Unplugged, brought to you by One Firefly. That's my day job. It is about 12:36 on, what is today? Today's Wednesday, January 31st, last day of the month. It's hard to believe. 1 month of 2018 is already blown by. I hope you're having a great day. I know that we're moving pretty fast and furious here at One Firefly, and a lot of moving parts. Some pretty amazing opportunities coming our way. Business is fantastic, and I know it is for many of you as well. Let me real quickly here make sure that we are streaming into the Facebook page. Let me make sure that technology is cooperating. And then I'm going to bring in our guest. Let me just check this out. Yep, there we are. Already starting to build an audience. Don't forget, if you're out there, please like this post. Please share this post if you'd be so kind. And don't forget to comment. Tell us you're there. Say hello. And if you have any questions for myself, or more importantly for our guest, writing in a comment is a great way for me to know that you have a question, and I'll be sure to read that off to our guest. So without further ado, let me bring in Brent McCall of Metra Home Theater Group. How are you, sir?
I am well, and thank you for having me, Mr. Callis. It is a privilege and a pleasure to be here, sir.
Awesome. Well, I appreciate you carving some time out of your busy schedule. And our mutual friend, Colleen Stearns over at Marketing Matters, helped make this happen and got us connected. So thanks to her as well. So, Brent, where are you coming to us from?
We are in Daytona Beach, really Holly Hill, in the center of the beautiful east coast of Florida, enjoying what is an incredible weather day today.
I agree. I'm here in South Florida, down in Cooper City. And it is blue skies and puffy clouds in the skies, and it's quite nice outside. So, of course, now all of our friends up north are hating us, and it's your fault. You brought up the weather.
Well, I guess it could be worse. We could be. No, it's awesome.
It's pretty awesome. Yeah, I concur. So, Brent, if you could, we'll go into detail, but just real quickly for those in our audience that aren't familiar with Metra Home Theater, what is Metra Home Theater? And then from there, I want to go more into your background. But can you give us a little bit of background first?
Absolutely. Metra Electronics, my parent company, is 70 years old, and the vast majority of time has spent being 12 volt up until about 2000, meaning they supported all the car audio, antennas, dash kits, wire harnesses, all the things necessary to put an aftermarket radio in your car. In the 2000s, a lot happened. Car audio guys were getting older and moving into home theater, and 9/11. When that happened, Metra looked at how do we keep our car guys as business people with us? How do we move forward? And I was working on the owner's house at the time, fixing a number of issues that other integrators left, and got called in to explain a little bit about our industry, what we do, how we do it, and how Metra could help. Uh-huh. And that's really how it started. It was just a way to maintain and create the dealers they had going forward into home theater.
Okay, so how many years have you been with Metra for quite a while?
I've been with Metra Electronics almost 20 years now.
20 years. My goodness. There aren't many people that can say they've been anywhere for 20 years.
No, it shocks me as well, and I'm sure them when they think, 20, he's still here?
20 years of this guy. So for our audience and for myself, I'd love to hear about your background. How did you land in this industry? And feel free to add as much color and stories as you want. But I'd love to hear where you came from.
I'm an old man, obviously, by the hair and the wrinkles. In the 70s, when I was in high school, it was still 8 tracks. I worked in auto body class in high school and installed my first car stereo. Thoroughly enjoyed it. Always enjoyed the music, play piano and drums, and have always liked hi-fi. Joined the service And right off post in Fayetteville, North Carolina, was a Dixie hi-fi store. I got a part-time job selling stereo after hours when I was in the Army. And have stayed with it one way or another ever since. It's a true passion. I love doing this. The music's important. Dealing with both the consumers and the dealers has been an incredible experience. I got out of the Army, went to work at a retail store in Orlando, did both home and car sales. As the world evolved into custom installation, we started doing that, and in the early days, we really just put car speakers in the ceiling of a house. So we were there at the very beginning, learning what worked, what didn't work, and how to make it pass code. So one way or another, I've been in custom installation pretty much as long as there's been a custom installation. In the late 90s, the gentleman that owns Metra had a large home done with 24 zones of distributed audio from Milan and a Theo Kalmarakis theater installed in it, which is in the first Theo book. There were a number of issues with the installation. The previous integrator found it prudent to leave town, and Alon contacted me to see about saving the job so everybody did not wind up in court.
So at that time, you were an integrator, and you were called in to assist this situation.
Absolutely. And I've been actively integrating as a full-time job. I'd started in the early 90s. Left the show floor because I just got tired of dealing with walk-in traffic, honestly.
Sure.
It was a lot more fun being an integrator and solving the problems than dealing with the, well, is that cash, check, or charge, sir?
Sure. So in terms of Metra, so the Metra at the time was mostly car 12 volt. Is that accurate?
100%. Absolutely. Now, as a sidebar, Metra had actually in the early days supplied stuff to the television industry. In the 60s, they supplied product and parts to the TV repair guys, knobs, dials, parts and pieces, but not custom integration because there really wasn't anything at the time that existed like that.
Sure.
A few Macintosh dealers running speakers throughout the house, but really there was no custom installation until the late 80s with the advent of automation. People starting to put relays in devices and controlling them remotely. Sony DSTs, Fox, early AMX, early Crestron. That is what opened up the world for what we now call custom installation.
Okay. So is Metra still in the car audio business, or are they entirely?
Absolutely.
They are. Okay.
Absolutely. We still make 80% of the dash kits, wire harnesses, and antennas, and steering wheel interfaces that are used in the world.
I would say that means you're still in that business.
Yes.
That's amazing.
And honestly, that is what pays the bills for us to do home theater correctly. If we were a standalone company, the things that we were able to create, because they're expensive to do in the HDMI world, couldn't be done.
Sure.
Because you cannot justify the expense, in a lot of cases, of product development for HDMI without somebody else to carry that load. And the car side allows us to do that. Make things that are unique, that fix problems, without making every one of those single items support itself 100%.
So what's kept you, Brent, in this business? On the notes here I see since 1977.
Yeah.
Why haven't you gone into some other space and spent your time? You spent your whole career in this channel.
Pretty much. I've tried a few other things. I was a teacher for a while. And I enjoy that tremendously. The politics runs you out of that. I actually sold tombstones for a while, family business.
Okay.
But it's the challenge of this. It's dealing with the dealers, solving their problems, meeting them at the shows, creating new product. My goal is honestly to work to 75 here at Metra.
Sure.
This job is a ton of fun. Every job, I don't care who you are, you have those days when you look at the law and you think, really? But for me, those are the tremendously great exceptions. The ability to work with the dealer on the phone, find a solution to what's causing his issues and make it work is a huge feeling. It's awesome.
How many dealers do you think you've worked with over the years?
Certainly thousands. Beyond that, I couldn't tell you. There is a core of about 1,000 that I talk to over the course of a month, pretty much every month.
Wow.
And I will get anywhere. I operate from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. 7 days a week. If they're working, I'm working. And they all have my cell phone number. It's on my cell phone number's on the website. So if somebody has an issue, they can call me because I deal with Europe, America, the West Coast, South America, Canada. Excuse me.
Yeah, no problem. So in terms of
tremendous.
Integrators, what is an audio video contractor or any technology contractor that's buying Metra stuff? What type of stuff are they buying? I know that you had mentioned they're buying HDMI cables. What's the portfolio of things your company is typically serving to the industry?
We consider ourselves an accessories company.
Okay.
And it's the same thing with the car side. That means cables, solutions, TV mounts, video surveillance products, Velcro, screen mesh for speaker grills, cloth, power products, wire ties, screws, anything they need that really is not the AVR, the source of the television, we provide.
Awesome. We got a few comments here on Facebook, by the way, Brent. Greg, I don't know if you know this name, Greg Calvimontes.
Calvimontes from Pittsburgh Home Theater.
He says you're famous.
Well, you know, this job does come with a lot of good friends. It really does. And a lot of what we do, you were just asking what we sell, comes from the dealers. For example, Greg Calvimontes called me in 2005, had a problem with the lightning strike, taking out HDMI ports all the way down the system. Component worked, composite worked, power on and off worked, but none of the HDMI ports did. It's because of him that I created our first HDMI surge protector.
Wow.
The dealers are super important to us. I mean, not just because they buy things and it pays the bills, but because they tell me what they need. They'll call. I have a dealer in New York had an issue with sources not syncing properly when he turned them on. Because of him, we created what we call the voltage control trigger that allows a forced shutdown of the hot plug within the HDMI interface so you get a resync every time. These are all solutions that came from a dealer call.
Interesting.
That's what makes this so much fun.
So what are the innovations that are happening out there? You know, like 4K and 8K. What role is that having in terms of, I'll just be specific, in terms of HDMI, and where do you see that going?
Well, it certainly is very important in the fear factor. There is a lot of misinformation and a lot of fear with dealers and manufacturers. And a short history lesson.
Please.
When HDMI first started, it was 5 gigabits. It was easy, 1080p. And even then, if you got past 20, 22 feet, you were doing good. As time progressed, it got further up. 3D was introduced. 3D took it up to about 7.5 gigabits. Now this fell within the 1.3 and 1.4 specifications. 3D, as everybody knows, was a sales disaster. It didn't make it 3 months, and the manufacturers realized this was a bad call. 4K came about 18 months earlier to the consumer than had been planned because of the 3D debacle. Because of that, when 4K was introduced, it had to be done within the existing 1.4 domain, 10 gigabits. So we got what we call 4K, or light. That meant that you only got 420 color so that every pixel on the television does not get its own color information. It meant that you typically got 24 frames per second, 30 if you were lucky. and only 8-bit color. So this kept you below 10 gigabits. This was done for a couple of reasons. The cabling infrastructure really did not exist to go past that. The TV manufacturers didn't have the chipsets in place to go past that. And honestly, the sources, which are still really only 1080i, so the only way you could get 4K was from a standalone player. Sony had the round one, Red had one, and a couple of others, or on streaming devices, Netflix or eventually Amazon Prime. It wasn't until Samsung released their first UHD HDR player with 20 disc that we broke the 10 gig barrier. Now, Xbox One S, Xbox One X, PlayStation 4 Pro, we are at 18 gig and beyond. So dealers that had working systems a year and a half, 2, 3 years ago are starting to see failures, and they're afraid. Where do we go? How do we go forward? And when HDMI announced 2.1 a year ago CES, a little premature, I think, that also set up a tremendous amount of fear. It's like they can't make work what they have. How do we go forward? The reality of it is we can. The infrastructure that has been around for 10 years with proper electronics can move forward. Guys don't have to panic. So there's a lot to be forward thinking. There's a lot to be happy about. And there's a few things you just need to plan going forward to make your life easier. It's not the world ending. It's just how do we prepare?
So what are some of those tips for planning forward if an integrator is doing a project or selling a project right now?
Well, the number one tip is conduit. It's that simple. And that is the toughest thing to get out of a customer or a client. I cannot tell you what the terminal is going to look like in 5 years. We can't. We are going to 48 gigabit, 24 with display screen compression, which will make the step a whole lot easier than going straight to 48. But we still don't know where the terminal is going to go going forward. Currently there's 19 pins. They may need more. And if the wire's in the wall, you're kind of limited to its structure. If you put conduit in, there's a lot more flexibility. Is it going to be fiber? Is it going to be a different winding? Is it going to be more pins in a terminal? We're not sure yet. We do know that 48 gig or HDMI 2.1, as it has been announced, is not a physical change, meaning the terminal stays the same 19 pins. There is, going forward, a higher bandwidth demand of the internals on the terminal, meaning how it's pinned out internally, how the solder's done, how the traces lay out. But the physical terminal will plug into the same terminal we have now, fully backwards compatible. If a dealer has a passive cable in place, the chances are of it going forward into some level of 2.1 with added electronics is pretty high.
What about for the people that pulled various types of fiber, over the last 10 years? Can much of that be adapted?
If it is unterminated fiber, possibly. If it is terminated fiber, the electronics that are in that fiber are the limiting factor. Up until about a year ago, fiber was a 10 gigabit solution. So if you have a fiber system that had 10 gigabit electronics, that's it. There's a brick wall you're not going to break. If you have fiber that has 18 gigabit electronics, and it's available now, you can cover everything that's currently available and for the next several years and be fine. Is it going to take you to 24 or 48? Probably not. HDMI is changing the way the data is transmitted. Right now, HDMI data is only over 3 channels, red, green, and blue. The 4th channel is, on high-speed side, a clock. That will change within 2.1, and the 4 channels, red, green, blue, and clock, will now be video channels with the clock laid over all 4 channels. So there is a change coming that will affect electronics and active systems, whether it's an active fiber cable or an active copper cable. Passive cables, in many cases, will be okay. unfortunately not all. A lot of manufacturers will take liberties on the clock channel because it's very limited bandwidth and not build it properly because it still passes the need, but not going forward.
Okay. How does Metra, how do you guys stay ahead so that you're manufacturing product that meets the technical requirements and needs of the new standards?
Well, there's several things involved in that. First off, we are a DPL member, Digital Performance Laboratories. Our cables, our electronics, a lot of our products are tested and verified by them. And they are very aggressive in staying on top of what's happening within the standards. And all DPL members have access to this information. As an individual company, Metra Electronics, myself, Stuart, the other people that work with me, we work directly with a lot of the hardware manufacturers, Sony, JVC, Epson, Denon, Marantz, Onkyo, Integra, Yamaha, and work directly with them to make sure that we're on top of what's happening and help them. In a lot of cases, if you go to training seminars or shows for the electronics manufacturers listed, you will find my products are their default connectivity. They want to make sure if all of that works, if there's a failure, they know what it's not.
Okay.
They don't want to be fighting, is it the TV, is it the cable, is it this, is it that?
Sure.
So by using products for connectivity that they know function, it reduces what they're fighting to find the solution.
By the way, we have another comment, Brett. Morgan Burton has stated that Brent is a wealth of information for this industry. He has seen it all.
Morgan has watched me work at shows. I have met her, and she has watched me work at shows, and obviously I'm a bit of a ham.
Okay.
I love working a show floor. CES, CEDIA, ISE. I love talking with the dealers. I bounce around a lot.
Sure.
You can tell I'm not what you'd call a low-energy person.
Sure. Sure.
And shows, to me, are the greatest fun in the world. You meet the dealer, you see things, they tell you the problems, they tell you what's going on. And it's generally a phone call. When I get a phone call, it's generally somebody with a problem.
Right.
Help me fix this. The show floor is different. It's like, here's what I'm seeing. What are your thoughts on this? Well, that is a tremendous amount of fun.
Speaking of shows, so you're just coming out of CES. I'm assuming you were out in Vegas?
Yes, sir.
How was it?
2.5 weeks.
So what were the product announcements, or if you had some, and or did you have a good time?
Well, first off, Vegas is not a big fan of the city, but I love the show. I meet and see a lot of people there. I am there first in, last out because we set up the booth, work the show, and tear down the booth. I'm not sales. Sales are basically shackled to their desk. They have a much harder job than I do, and I don't make that as a joke. My job is fun and easy. Sales is a hard job. What we saw this year that was interesting from our standpoint was short distance fibers for guys to do in racks to make life cleaner and more reliable. So new extenders, new video surveillance products. Mostly it's to take us forward into 48 gigabit. From a show standpoint, LG, Sony, and Samsung are all showing 8K products to take you forward. So the reality of this is not pie in the sky. 8K and 2.1 is real. It is coming, and it will be available certainly in limited markets, if not worldwide, for the 2020 Olympics.
Okay. When do you think that we're going to see 8K hitting the consumer? When are you going to see 8K TVs getting sold? I'm kind of disconnected from that timeline. I'm curious what your thoughts are.
6 months before the 2020 Olympics, I believe they'll be available.
6 months before the 2020 Olympics.
I can't tell you the dates of the 2020 Olympics, but my guess is in order to get any level of penetration, they will start shipping products to the stores 6 months before the Olympics. Because there's the build-up with the networks or with the network and what they're going to be able to show.
Okay. And, well, pardon me if I'm asking a silly question, but I'm sure there's at least somebody else out there that's at my level of technical aptitude. would the 8K signal be sent by the cable company to your cable box? Like, how does that work?
I believe the plan, and I am not privy to this, I'm guessing,
Sure.
is you will see a dedicated channel within the cable systems via IP, because they've most gone that direction now anyway,
Right.
over the air and on satellite, DirecTV at the very least, possibly Dish.
Okay. So with the cable box most people have, there'll be a channel serving up that high-res content.
And the other thing you will see is between now and 2020, bandwidth over the national infrastructure for IP will increase dramatically. So there's probably going to be, if you have a streaming box, a Roku, an Apple TV, NVIDIA, devices like that, I am sure there'll be Olympic apps to get high-res downloads, 4K, HDR with HLG, and probably 8K.
Okay. So if you don't mind, Brent, let's go a completely different direction here. So you've been working with lots of integrators for lots of years. Could you maybe give a couple of bullets, 2, 3, 4 bullets of takeaways or attributes of some of the better performing integrators? In other words, there's going to be people watching or listening or reading this content that maybe just started their business last year.
Absolutely.
Maybe they've been running for 10 years, but yet they haven't been able to kind of break through and reach that stride that they want. I'd love to hear your perspective on what you think are some of the best attributes of some of the better companies.
Number one, flowcharts.
Okay, process.
As an integrator, when I'm designing a system, I flowchart every single thing in that system, because it's really easy to miss the small things, and the small things mean overnight shipping. Mm-hmm. Overnight shipping kills profitability in a job. So step number one, once you've met the client, got an idea of what their expectations are, what you're going to deliver, set out a flowchart. I need to accomplish this, this, and this in this job. And then under the flowchart, you'll start bullet pointing, okay, I need a source that does this. I need switching that does this. I need displays that do this. Once you have those, it's easier to formulate a proper thought process and determine the items you need. It's always the little things you forget that cost you in profit, without question, because they're overnighted, or you got to find them, or they're out of stock.
Agreed.
Whenever possible, try a new combination of hardware, gear, connectivity in the office before you go to the job site. Our goal as integrators is to look like a god in front of the client. That means when you show up at their house, everything needs to work. Now, I don't care who you are and how well you planned. That's not a reality, but that is the goal. Nothing is worse than you sitting there staring at a stack of things with that client leaning over your shoulder wondering, am I going to have music when the party starts in 30 minutes? Mm-hmm. And every CI's been there. It's a fact of life. Paperwork, paperwork, paperwork. Mm-hmm. If you don't document what you're doing and where you put things, you're going to forget it. There's too many jobs going on. Right now, everybody's got a different job, a different location every day. The world's busy again. CI has picked back up. And if you don't document what you've done at a job site, and we've all done it, you walk in the room, you look, it's like, why is that wire there? What was its purpose? What was I thinking? This doesn't mean write a book. Yeah, everybody's got a smartphone. Take a video of the job site, make audio comments on it, and save it. It will save your butt.
And increase your profitability for sure.
Absolutely, because the less you have to order quickly, the more you plan ahead, the less money you spend, and the more you make.
Well, those are some wise words from a veteran. When you're not busy helping people run their business better or solve their HDMI issues or having fun at trade shows, what are you doing for fun, Brent?
2-channel music. I still thoroughly enjoy it. I enjoy going home. I have a nice Parasound Halo stack and a set of BG ribbons that I listen to almost daily.
Awesome.
And I have a Miata. I love a top-down ride along the beach at night, enjoying the sunset on the west side of the world, and the breeze in my face.
Awesome.
Other than that, it truly is work. This is still fun. At some point, it may become a job, but after 40 years, it hasn't.
What do you enjoy most about your job?
The dealers, interaction with the dealers, solving problems. Without a challenge, life gets boring. And that's why HDMI has been, honestly, for me, fun. There are frustrating days. It's like, why did they do this? But as a whole, solving the issues, moving it forward has been a tremendous amount of satisfaction for me. And shows. God knows I love a show. I'm going to Amsterdam this weekend for ISE.
Oh, I love Amsterdam and I love the IS. It's such an amazing show.
Yes, it is. It's a different market and a different feel over there.
Yeah.
The integrators are different. In America, integrators tend to be a little bit more seat of the pants. And in Europe, they tend to be more focused. And both ways, in my opinion, have a tremendous amount of value. I think American integrators can adapt to changes a little quicker than what we see over in Europe. But the European integrators are more focused on job productivity, meaning they're a little bit more organized. They know what they need in their toolkits and everything's there. I met a few that offer both together. Not enough on either side of the ocean. Mm-hmm. But either way is a valid statement. I don't want to say this is better than that because I do both ways. Seat of the pant means a problem comes up, you can get through it and you moved on. Where people are very focused on procedure may not be able to do that as well.
Any favorite restaurants over there in Amsterdam?
Thai.
Thai.
The Thai restaurants and the sushi restaurants in Amsterdam are fantastic.
Yeah, I remember Indian. Some of the best Indian I had was there in Amsterdam.
I love a good masala.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Brent, we're gonna call it an interview, my friend. I really appreciate you taking time and sharing with my audience about yourself and about your company. It was a lot of fun.
One more thing to add, again, I am available from 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. And anybody in the company can call. It doesn't have to be management. I'll happily take a call from an integrator. If you're working, I'm working. It's that simple.
What's the best way to reach you? Do you want to throw out a phone number?
My cell phone number is area code 386-846-7264. If you call and you do not reach me, there's really only two reasons. I'm out to dinner and the phone's off, or I'm in the Miata and the top's down. Leave a name and a phone number and a text, and I will call you back.
That's awesome. Brent, thank you, buddy. I really appreciate it.
Ron, thank you for a wonderful opportunity, and I hope you have a great day.
Awesome. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for watching. Don't forget to like this post, share this post, throw us a comment, even if we're offline. Let us know what you thought of the interview, and really appreciate you checking it out. So, on that note, I want you to have an awesome rest of your Wednesday and a fantastic rest of your week. And I will see you next time on the next episode of Automation Unplugged. Should be next week on Wednesday. So thanks, guys, and I will talk to you soon. Be well.